Kris.
And I'm Wyatt Elliott from Notebook Entertainment.
And you're watching Review This.
That was wonderful. Bravo! I loved that. Oh, it was great. Well, it was pretty good. Well, it wasn't bad.
It stinks.
So we literally just got done watching the final episode of Severance. We need to talk about it. So in case you don't know, it plays on Apple TV. There's 9 full episodes for season 1. They're all out as of today. You'll probably see this tomorrow, though.
Yeah. As you're watching the video, though, no, you can go binge watch the whole show.
Yes.
Now. It's ready to go.
It's all out.
Yeah. And it's, oh, man.
It's so good, you guys.
It's a binge-worthy show, man. It's going to pull you in.
It's like sci-fi, horror, thriller, mystery, all mixed into one.
I guess I would say...
It's like genreless.
Yeah. True. Yeah, I hate to really categorize it as
Right.
anything, but I guess it's sci-fi, but...
Yeah. Overall, I would say sci-fi.
Definitely, but there's horror elements,
Horror,
for sure.
And there's definitely thriller, noir, mystery, all of that in there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. No, this show's
it's
great.
fun to play along with and be like, what the hell is happening?
Well, that's going to be your thought through most of this show is what the hell is happening.
Right.
But we knew, I'm like, there's no way they're going to be able to wrap all of this up in one more episode.
No.
And sure enough, it just got more complicated, so.
But we'll get to that. So
Yeah.
let's start by talking about the cast, like we always do.
Mm-hmm.
So at the top of our cast, leading everybody, Adam Scott plays Mark, and he did fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of him as Ben Wyatt.
No.
But he does. But Adam Scott, I almost called him Ben Wyatt. Adam Scott as Mark. The elevator ride up, because the way when you're going from Severance or from your normal life to your Severance life, that you ride an elevator up, and the facial changes, they all did great with it, but I think it's so subtle.
Yeah.
But you see it.
Because I think his character in both worlds is the most similar to each other,
Yeah.
so it is a subtle change. I think if anything, his character inside starts out happier
Yeah.
than his character
Yeah,
on the
he's cool
outside,
with life.
You know, he's just like, he
Until
loves it.
somebody asks him questions, and then
Right.
he's like, oh, well, okay, well, maybe this does kind of suck.
Sometimes I think, though, that's just real life. You know,
Right.
you're happy-go-lucky till you start asking
Thinking,
questions.
right. So
And
you
it's
start
like,
thinking.
wait a minute.
So then that brings us to Britt Lauer, who plays Helly, and she's basically the reason that they all stop and are like, wait a minute, what are we doing here?
It's always when you add the new person.
Right, always the new person. And she, from the beginning, is very aggressive and very assertive and very, I don't want to be here. And we'll talk about that during the plot. But yeah, I think she did fantastic, because she's the one throughout the series we find out the least about, and in the final episode we learn why. But her life outside of the Severance floor is very shielded from us. For very good reason, plot reasons.
Well, I guess in the beginning, though, really only Adam Scott we see, don't we?
Yeah, it's a little bit sprinkled in.
Yeah.
You get the others here and there. Which brings us to John Turturro, and he plays Irving, and I love Irving. I love him so much. He's kind of the old guy now that the PD, the last guy, has retired. So he's now, I think, the old guy on their floor, who's been there the longest, and he's kind of loopy, so it makes me wonder if maybe he's losing a bit of his mental facilities outside, because he does seem to be a little, like, he's not thinking as clearly, he's falling asleep and work more, he's having some issues.
Yeah, he seems to have, kind of spurts of emotion and everything, too. You know, he'll be angry, and then he'll be very that's against the rules.
Yeah. The handbook says we have to do this. And at the beginning, he's very loyal to the Egan, to the Egans, who started this company, Lumon, and he's got an unquestioning loyalty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't care for him in the beginning. In the very first of it, I thought, he's just one of those
It's once he meets Christopher Walken. But let's skip ahead to Christopher Walken. I was going to wait on him because I wanted to talk about the main people first. But when you talk about Irving, you have to talk about Bert. And Bert is played by Christopher Walken, and they have the cutest little old man relationship. I was cheering for them to make out the whole time.
Bert works in a different wing.
Yep, and they meet by chance.
Yeah, because they're not supposed to
Yeah, it's when they're going
mingle.
for their therapy sessions or whatever, wellness checks or whatever they wanted to call it. And they meet in the waiting room, and they're both very into art, and so they kind of bond over that. And like I said, it's just a very cute, like, little old man love, and I was rooting for them so hard throughout. So let's go back to our main characters. We've got Zach Cherry plays Dylan, who's the fourth person in their department. Which their department is just the four of them in this cubicle in the center of this giant room.
Yeah,
and they're like picking out numbers that feel a certain way,
and they have goals, and they somehow know when they reach that.
I told him, I was like, I bet they're like mining crypto or something.
Right. Like, this is what I visualize when people tell me about their mining crypto. I was like, okay, it's like this is what this is.
Yeah, and if it's scary numbers, they go in the number 1 box, and I'm like, well, what are scary numbers? Like,
yeah.
I need to know more about their work. They did not properly explain their work yet, but
they did not.
They have season 2.
Which makes me wonder if the creators of the show even know what the hell they're doing or not.
I bet they do, because it's so intricate. Like, everything is so intricate.
It feels like it's well thought out.
Yes.
It feels like it. I really hope that it is.
So then overseeing everything in charge, I guess she would be like the general manager.
She's the office manager.
Patricia Arquette, she plays Harmony Cobell. And she's not severed, because we were wondering at first, because when you see her, she's Mark's neighbor on the outside. They're outies, because they call their outside personalities, who they really are their outies, but when they're at work, they're called their innies.
Which I think is clever. I mean, it makes it sound so cutesy and fun. And,
Which is the point, because they want people to think it's cutesy and fun it's not. So she's terrifying. Like, Patricia Arquette did so well in this role. Harmony is terrifying at points.
Yes, she is.
And once you find out that no, she's not severed, that she's literally living next door to Mark to spy on him, for what reason, I don't know. Like, he's a low level, you know?
Right.
He just, at the beginning, he gets promoted because Petey is gone.
Right.
Which we'll talk about Petey in the plot, but...
we'll talk about
Petey. So then moving on, working for Harmony is head of security Milchek, and he's played by Tremel Tillman. And he's another one, because he's got to have this like fake smile and this fake happy person, and he does it so well that it kind of puts you're like, it's off-putting.
And he's another one who's almost slightly out of his decade. The way he looks, and the way that he's dressed, and the way that he acts, you know?
And he's clearly not severed either.
I don't think so.
I mean, well, maybe he is. They never show him really outside, except when he went to Dylan's house. So maybe he's not severed. But he was
himself, so he was himself.
He might not be severed.
I'm guessing
it might just be the workers.
I'm guessing not.
So then we move on. We've got Jen Tulloch, who plays Devin. She's Mark's sister. I like her. She kind of is the voice of reason, where she's like, no, this is kind of bullshit. This is dumb. This is, you know.
But her husband's great, though.
Her husband's great. So her husband is Rickon Hale, played by Michael Chernas. So yeah, she's married to him, so that makes him Mark's brother-in-law. And in Mark's Audi hates his brother-in-law. Like, he's one of those self-help gurus who wrote a book that's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo.
It's so dumb. It makes him disgusted in the Audi life.
Right. But in the innie life, where they don't know really anything, it's like you're kind of reborn there.
And how does the book get in there? I don't remember.
I think... what's her face picks it up from Mark's porch.
That's right.
So the book, Harmony's the one who actually brings the book, for whatever reason, steals it from Mark's porch. Yeah. Brings it to work. It winds up getting passed around, and Mark finds it, and he doesn't know who this guy is, because his innie has no idea. His innie's reading this book, and it's like world opening for him.
Yeah,
like,
it's great.
It's so funny.
It's so funny to watch, because they set up and you see that he thinks this guy's an idiot. He probably doesn't even like the fact that his sister's married to him, you know? And he thinks his book is a joke, and he's just so dumb. He's so, like, superficial intellectual.
But then they're innies. This book helps inspire them to their little coup.
Yeah, it's amazing. But and it's funny to see Adam Scott read from it in his innie, and he's so amazed by it, and we're all laughing, but we also understand that this is amazing knowledge to him.
Yep. Stuff he's never thought of before.
Never thought about it. Reminds me of, like, when you're, like, a teenager and you're finally looking into literature and stuff. And, like, it's you see his mind being totally blown.
Yeah, but this guy's a tool. Like, I don't like the brother-in-law.
And you're not supposed to. That's the brilliance of the gag. Like, it's fantastic.
Right. So the last person we have to talk about, Sydney Cole Alexander plays Natalie. And she's the one, she speaks for the board. So we never really meet who's on the board of Lumen. Anytime there's a meeting, she comes in with her little ear set and she's like, the board would like to...
Yeah.
And Dyken Lockman plays Mrs. Casey, who is secretly Mark's wife. She's like the psychologist in there. She's also severed, apparently. But she's Mark's wife, and Mark's wife... That's the whole reason he gets severed. So let's get into the plot.
Yeah, we need to, I think, to talk about that.
So what is the Severance program? Let's start with that. So Lumen Industries is a company, and they offer this program called Severance, where you get a chip implanted. And so what it does is when you go up in the elevator, the chip activates, and it completely severs your conscious mind. And so now you're like a whole new person. Mm-hmm. It's a whole new consciousness inside you.
So you can't remember anything about your outside life. All you know is how to do your job and your inside life. And we don't know. We were talking about that later in the show. I was like, do they still remember how to drive? Do they still remember how to do any of this stuff? Yeah, so we don't know. They don't make that clear, but they don't remember anything. They don't know if they're married. They don't know if they have kids. They don't know if they have.
They don't know anything about their outside life. No. And once they leave work, they don't remember anything about what happened at work either.
Yeah. So, and the idea is so that you don't take work home with you. You don't do the stresses from life, you know. But this show examines why it doesn't work. Right,
because the innies become their own people almost. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so now you're living almost a double life. Yeah. That you're not even aware of. So it's kind of a mind fuck, really.
Yeah, it really is, because people on the inside are not who they are on the outside, and you could be totally different people and have different relationships, have different thoughts even.
Right. You could be enemies outside, and inside you're like best work friends, and you had no idea.
It's fascinating idea. It really is.
Really
and
is.
They took it way more than I think when I first heard the concept. I was like, okay, this is kind of a cool idea.
No, they really explored it.
I don't think they're done exploring it.
No. Keir Egan is the one who founded all of this, I guess. And he's in the Severance floor, they have this like museum to the Egans. That's super creepy.
It's very cultish.
They even have a replica of like his house in there.
Yeah.
Right. It's very cultish.
It's very cultish, but in theory he's supposed to be, he's the creator of the... Yeah.
Which is why when I was talking about Irving, I said he takes it almost like they're his gods. And it is. Everything that is in those handbooks is the word of God to Irving and to most of them. And they don't think to question anything else.
Yeah, and it's funny too because like they have like reward programs and stuff, and they're all just stupid little things,
like beer cozies and finger traps.
And the one guy gets so excited, and he's got so many of them, and he brags to the other ones, and they all act like it's important. It reminds me of like training dogs or children or something, like to them this is all exciting stuff because they don't know anything.
Yeah,
else.
They don't know that. Finger traps are stupid. So
right, it really is. And like a penny, like I don't.
I think you can get a whole bag of them for like a penny.
Right. It's.
So yeah, that's basically what the company is. So we start with Mark, and he's kind of a sad sap outside of work. Mm-hmm. His wife has died in a car accident, is what we're told.
Yeah.
Because we don't find out that it's his wife, that Miss Casey is his wife till like the second to last episode.
Right.
So the whole time we're thinking that she's just another severed employee.
But it's weird though, because that means she is dead
We don't know what happened. Like, they're going to have to explore that next time in the next season. But what I'm betting happened is she was in some kind of accident. She got taken to the hospital. She was going to die or something. And Lumen stepped in. Someone from Lumen stepped in. And they're like, we can fix her mind a certain way. Because they remember when she's turned off. Because when everyone else is turned off, their innies are off. They're outside living their outside world.
Right.
When they turn Miss Casey off, they send her to the experiment floor or something. And I'm like, what is the experiment floor?
Yeah, so
So she could be just a consciousness that they've created that maybe she really did die. Her body's dead. Right, I don't know. Like, it could go anywhere.
Well, yeah, because, and this is going way ahead, but we just had seen in the final episode, Patricia Arquette made some comment about, we'll keep you alive, because they're trying to, she figures out that they're, we're skipping way ahead. But she does say a comment about that we can keep you guys alive and torture you.
Right.
Because they're trying to escape.
Right.
So maybe their consciousness is stored somewhere.
So, yeah, it's really weird what's going on with Miss Casey. We'll figure it out next season probably, but the point is even though Adam Scott's innie interacts a couple of times with Miss Casey, he does not recognize her as his wife at all.
And she doesn't know him.
And she doesn't recognize him either.
No.
Nope.
And they don't seem to flirt or anything. They're just...
She acts the same with him as she does with everyone else. Yeah. Although they did seem to be a little closer towards the end when he was apologizing for her having to go. Because, okay, so get this. If you break a rule, you go to the break room. And what it is you, like, sit there with your hands in these things. And you have to read over and over this apology until they feel like you mean it.
Yeah. It's cults.
Yeah.
It's brainwashing is what it is.
It's breaking spirits.
Right. It's clearly breaking people and brainwashing them is what it is.
So she winds up getting sent there because she's supposed to watch them. They sneak away. We'll get to all that in a minute. But she gets sent to the break room. And so when he's apologizing to her about that later, she kind of breaks character a little bit. And she's like, that was the most fun day of my life. Because as far as she knows, that is the most fun day of her life because that's her innie, you know?
True.
So she does seem to come out a little bit more towards the end, and she even asked him, why do you care about me, you know? And
well, he was very upset when she got fired, you know?
Yeah.
And
so we'll get there. Yeah. So we meet Mark inside now at work, and he finds out that his best work friend or whatever is no longer there, and they won't give him any explanation for it. It's just Petey's gone. So now he's the manager of this department. And again, I have no idea what they do in that department at all. They find numbers and
they all seem to understand it.
They know what they're doing.
That's what's important. And even when they try to train them, they're like, well, you'll feel it. Because they're training the new girl. And she's like, what the fuck am I doing?
Right.
They're like, well, you'll feel it.
Yeah. Because the very first thing they have Mark do is, okay, we've got a new hire. You have to... And so he's got to read from the binder and he's doing it wrong. And so Helly wakes up in this room to a speaker, you know, basically talking to her. And
the whole
freaking out, rightfully so.
Exactly. Like, the whole thing starts out horror-ish, really.
So this is Helly's first memory of life, is waking up in this room.
Not knowing anything about herself, or I would assume, you know?
because I think they ask her name or whatever, and she's like, I don't know. Like, they were...
and then and I love the way how this is how the show starts, and then later, I believe it's the same episode, you get to see it from his point of view, and him going into work and getting promoted and having to do this for the first time, and then you see her in the monitor, and
Wyatt's such a screw up, and
and it's like,
how he messed up.
So it's really well done. Yeah. Like, Ben Stiller directed the first couple episodes and the last couple episodes, and he's also a producer on this. And kudos, like,
good job,
really good job on that.
Yeah, I saw him on the Late Shows talking about it because I was like, anything Severance, I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, really good job on this.
Yep. So Helly, they eventually calm her down enough to take her to her workstation or whatever. And she's like, I don't want to do this.
Right. And I think that's where they're really, because apparently the others, they just kind of go on. But she's always been a little...
Well, no, because remember, Mark told her that he also had problems when he first woke up. That, he was... Yeah, it was his way of trying to, like, reach out to her. Because that wasn't in the binder. That was him talking outside the binder.
Yeah.
Because they kept telling him, stick to the binder. And he didn't. And so that's why they think Helliar is wrong, is because he didn't stick to the binder.
There you go.
Whatever. Yeah, there's a binder for, like, everything. So they're trying to train Holly, and she's like, I don't understand what you're asking me to do. And they're like, you'll just feel it. You'll feel it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in the meantime, she's trying to figure out every way to quit, basically. And so to quit, you have to record a message to your outie telling them, I guess, why you want to quit or whatever.
But this isn't for
But
you.
your outie is the one that makes the decision.
Yeah.
So her outie, every time that she tries to quit, her outie is like, bitch, nope.
And they
I'm
show
in charge.
you a video
and
of
she's
your
very
outie
mean to her, Annie.
Yeah.
Like, girl, that's you. That's still you. Mm-hmm. You know this, right? Because at one point, Holly grabs like a paper cutter and she holds her own hand hostage. And she's like, you're going to let me record a message to my outie, or you're going to have to explain to her why she's missing her fingers.
Right.
And the video message back from Outie Helly to Any Helly, Outie Helly is like, she's a bitch. Like,
yeah, she doesn't.
She is not nice, and we find out why later. But
oh yeah,
there's a very, very big reason why she won't let her quit.
It all does make sense, yeah.
But that just basically fuels Helly's fire to be like, oh yeah, bitch. She does is actually really brilliant. She decides she's gonna kill herself, but she does it in the elevator. Mm-hmm. So she sets it so that when she starts hanging, because she did a noose. Yeah. And so when she starts hanging, it's her, but by the time she gets to the bottom, it's her outie Helly that's dying.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, girl, you're smart. That was
yeah.
That's cold.
As a horrific a scene as it was also very, like, kudos. Like, man, talk about a fuck you.
Right.
You know? Like.
Right. So Mark is starting to question things too, because he sees how unhappy Helly is. He doesn't like that he didn't get any answers about Petey. However, his outie meets Petey. So on the outside now, while we'll leave them for a while. The innies are all kind of simmering in unhappiness now that they're realizing, hey, our lives kind of suck. So let's go back to the outside. So from episode 1 and 2. Mark on the outside meets Petey, who he would know on the inside, but outside he has no idea who this guy is when he comes and like sits down with him at the diner or whatever. Yeah. And so Petey tries to explain to him like, hey, we're best friends from work, this and this and this. Turns out Petey found someone who they claim can reverse the chip so that you're no longer severed. I'm not sure that it works, because Petey clearly his memories start merging at one point, and he'll be talking to Mark on the outside world, but then all of a sudden he'll be picturing that they're back in the Severance floor and he's talking to Mark there.
Yeah, he's not well.
No.
For sure.
But when Mark winds up hunting down the person that claims, because Petey winds up dying, and when Mark later on, he answers this phone that Petey had, which, oh my god, I was so frustrated with him. I was like, answer it right away. Nope. Instead, he keeps it in a box for a couple days, and then he tries to throw it out.
Ringing,
and I'm like,
someone's trying to contact this guy.
Answer the goddamn phone. So he finally answers the phone, and it's this girl that is in charge of this like secret group that's trying to help severed people and stop the severed program altogether. And so when he goes to meet her, there's this other security guard that I didn't mention in the cast because he dies pretty early on, but he goes to try and like, I guess, contain everything, and she winds up killing that security guard guy. But basically, what she tells Mark is that the reason Petey didn't get better or whatever is because she told him that it takes a couple weeks, that there's certain things he has to do and he wasn't doing those or something. So I don't know if her program would work under perfect circumstances. And Petey just fucked up, or if it just doesn't work because you're fucking with people's brains. Like,
exactly. And it might just be, that it was a hack, basically.
Right.
And sometimes a hack doesn't always work the way that it should.
Right.
And sometimes it's going to be glitchy and stuff.
And everybody's brain is different, too. What doesn't work on Petey's brain could maybe work on Mark's.
True.
But Mark, runs, and then we don't even hear from that woman again for the rest of this series. So hopefully she shows up again in season 2. I assume now that they all know what's going, because by the end of this, they all know what's going on and stuff. I assume that she would play a bigger role in season 2 now.
Oh yeah, season 2 is gonna be a completely different
show.
It
was so different. So Mark is kind of piecing things together outside. Meanwhile, his sister is pregnant, and she goes off to a birthing cabin or whatever. She's out taking a walk trying to induce labor, and she runs into this other lady in this house, and she just walks up to her and she's like, "Do you have coffee? I need coffee." Like, okay, well, I would turn people away that just came randomly to my house asking me for things, but whatever.
Coffee drinkers are a different breed,
I guess. So this woman lets her in, and they have a whole conversation, these two pregnant women. And Devin leaves. She has the baby. It's Mark's niece, because it's a girl. A couple days later, though, she's out walking. Devin's out walking with her new baby, and she sees the mother, and she waves at her, and the woman kind of looks at her weird. So she goes down to talk to her, and it's like this woman has no idea who she is. And I told him, I was like, I bet she severed herself so she wouldn't have to experience childbirth, and her innie would. And turns out that's exactly what she did.
Yeah.
Because we meet her again in the final episode, so.
Which is, like from everything I understand about childbirth, it makes sense.
Right. I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm just saying.
That might be $1 billion idea.
But, like, that's the thing is it's still you going through it. And so her innie is still experiencing whatever pain and stuff. And so all she's done is, she shielded her conscious self from the pain, but she also lost that moment of your child coming into the world.
True.
Yeah.
Like
that instant bonding moment. Her child had that with her innie, not with her outie. And we've seen sometimes those are two very different people.
That's a very good point. Like, it would be like all of a sudden you went to sleep and then you had a baby.
Right, because we were even wondering later when they all wake up, Irving in his outside life, he's got a dog. And we were like, does his dog realize something's different?
Yeah, because his dog didn't run up to him or anything, but
he's an older doggy, so it's hard to tell. Yeah,
so I don't know.
It's hard to tell. He let him pet him, so.
Right.
I don't know.
So, I would think a dog wouldn't know the difference because they would know your... That's a discussion about souls, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, souls and whether your smell changes, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
But whatever.
That's a complicated one.
So this is our first indication that there are people out in the real world getting severed, not just for their jobs.
Right.
So that severed program is basically expanding. And this woman, she's also the wife of a senator.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so moving on from all that, because again, we don't see this pregnant woman again until later. But Devin kind of mentions it, and she's like, it's weird, it's like she never met me before. So back at work, all the innies are kind of, rebelling a little bit, and testing their boundaries, and especially Irving, now that he's met Bert. Bert comes and drops them. He mentions when they first meet that he likes the tote bags they give out with the new handbook every year or whatever.
Because they like the stupid little things. They all do.
So Bert makes a special trip, and he comes and brings Irving and the rest of his department the tote bags early as a gift. And he's drawn a map from his department to where theirs is, because they keep them separate. They will not. And there's these rumors going around. Each department thinks that the other department at some point turned on everybody, and that there was some big battle, and
so that way they all hate each other.
They all hate each other. They blame each other.
Yep.
But once they actually go to Bert's department, which his department is like decorating or whatever, and they've got art and all the stuff that decorates the walls to try and make it look like a normal office, I guess. They go and they find this painting, and this painting to Dylan, because he's super suspicious of everyone in that department, because they're the ones that in their version of the story, Bert's department's the one who tried to overthrow and kill everybody and everything. So they find a painting that kind of depicts that, and Dylan's like, see, I told you. And they're like, wait a minute, this isn't the same painting we saw. Turns out they have Lumen has different versions of that painting depending on where it's going to hang, so that every department will think that the other department is the bad guy. I'm like, This is some cult shit, you guys.
It sure is. And it also teaches on how you control people. You know, if you pit them against each other.
With fear and hatred.
And hatred, and I hate him, and therefore if they hate each other, they're not going to talk, they're not going to share information.
Because once you know somebody, it's harder to hate them, you know?
Exactly. And like, in between departments, it's like a little mouse maze or something. Like that's why he has to make a map. They're all blank, white, sterile hallways, and they all know how to get to their office and the elevator, but outside of that.
In the meantime, Mark has found, because he's switching out the team photos because they had to take a new one because they got Helly now. So they get rid of the old ones, and he realizes that on Petey's, the back of his, he had been secretly drawing a map of the entire floor. And so Helly winds up finding out about that, and she wants to basically figure out how to get themselves out as their innies. And at first he's pushing her, so it takes a while for her to finally convince him. And I think it's once he starts reading his brother-in-law's book that he's like, wait a minute, there could be more to life than just working and all that.
And you know, if you think about it, like sometimes I think this show is a deep cut metaphor for your outside work and who you are outside versus who you are on the inside. Because when I held down a job, I was a different person. You have to act in a different way. You're around people. It's
called the customer service voice.
Well,
we all have
true.
one.
And you have to be a certain kind of fake, you know, at work than you are with your friends and stuff. And so I think this is kind of that's probably where this whole idea.
It's one of the commentaries in here. There's a lot of commentary.
I think there's a commentary on cult life,
on everything, government intervention, everything. It's a very deep show.
It very is. It's very intellectual.
So eventually, I think after her suicide, the others are kind of more on Helly's side, and they're like, yeah, this is kind of a living hell. And then Dylan especially, what finally gets Dylan, because he wants to win, he wants to get his work done first, because he wants that waffle dinner or whatever that the top prize gets.
It's always so stupid.
I know. And so he's a good company man, and he's not gonna, so at first he doesn't explore the halls with them, I don't think. I think he does stay behind the first couple of times.
So, yeah.
But then he finds out, so the one time he does go with them to Bert's department, he winds up stealing a card from that department, brings it back to his department. Now, you can't bring anything up and down in the elevator, so there's no way for your inner self to leave a message in your pocket or something for your outer self.
Because it scans and recognizes words and everything, so yeah.
Because Helly tried, like, everything.
She did, yeah. Think of the whole second episode as nothing but her trying to get out.
So Dylan hides the card somewhere in the bathroom behind the toilet or whatever, and then goes home for the day. He winds up waking up in the closet of his home, his Audi's home, and a kid runs up to him and hugs him and calls him dad, and it kind of freaks him out.
Well, yeah, he has no idea.
He has no idea where he is. No. He doesn't. Milchek shows up and tells the kid to basically get lost.
Because they're all fully understood that their innie couldn't go Audi.
The innie stays innie.
Yeah.
And so Milchek comes and he's asking about the card that he stole, and he wants to know where it is, and he reveals to them that they can wake them up at any time. It's a program called Overtime. So they've been lying to him, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the first time that they've gotten confirmation, basically, that they've been lied to.
And they claim that it's very rarely used and only used on emergencies and blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah. But the point is that they feel is, well, you never even told us that you could do this.
Exactly. Maybe that would be a nice reward.
So Dylan can't stop thinking about his kid now, this kid that he's seen. And before that, he was all like, I don't care what my outside life is. I don't care. I like it here, you know. So, but now he got a glimpse of what his outside life is, and it's kind of driving him a little nuts.
Oh, yeah, I think it does. I think especially the kid thing. I don't think he could even fathom that he would, you know, because his closet was like a nice, long walk-in closet.
So he's clearly doing well for himself.
Right,
you know?
So he must have a big house and his kid, and yeah, I mean, it would blow his mind because here he is, just this schlub who works every day at his job and is obsessed with winning finger traps and stuff, you know.
Well, he also had a crush on Miss Casey.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So after Helly's suicide attempt, they have Miss Casey. They assign her to like basically watch Helly all day long, and it's very literal. Like Helly's at her desk, and Miss Casey's like standing right there watching. And so they figure out a plan to sneak away from Miss Casey and go searching the halls. And once they do, Dylan and or not Dylan, Helly and Mark discover this room with like, what was it, baby goats?
Yeah. Did they ever explain
Or was
it?
Not yet.
There was a room of baby goats. Yeah.
Yep. And Irving goes off to try and find Bert, and
Yeah, I forgot about that.
so Miss Casey winds up getting in trouble for what they did, because she wasn't she was supposed to watch Helly. And Helly got away from her for like a good 45 minutes. And so she winds up getting sent to the break room as well. Which is weird, because Miss Casey, remember, she's Mark's wife. We don't know what's going on with all that yet. But Miss Casey is very, like, not there. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, she's very aloof, and she's
very
yeah.
You know?
Which again makes me wonder if her real life body is gone.
Right, because it's very creepy the way she talks almost.
Yeah. I always thought there was something, she's very robotic, maybe?
In a very soft way.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, she's definitely doesn't act natural.
No.
She acts like she's shell-shocked or something
right.
all the time.
Or that she's AI. That's what she acts
Yeah.
like, is she's AI. Like,
Yeah.
and she's just barely getting to what humans really act like, you know?
Yeah. And I think explains it if she's dead in the
that could be AI.
world.
She really could be AI, yeah. So later on, again, I don't know what Harmony Cobell, that's Patricia Arquette again, I don't know what Harmony's like obsession with Mark is. Because again, he seems like a very low level guy. Yeah, he got promoted or whatever, but he's nobody on the outside. He's not really anybody on the inside.
Right.
But she's been spying on him this whole time. She takes packages from his porch. Mm-hmm. She's constantly sending him, knowing that that's his wife, sending his innie to go talk to Mrs. Casey.
Yeah, it's like
she's fucking with him.
She's trying to provoke, or maybe he's the test subject to see what it's going to take to get him to rebel. I don't know.
But then why not just let him rebel?
Because he's a very company man in the beginning.
In the beginning, yeah. So, like I said, basically the next few episodes are them trying to figure everything out, and they come up with this plan because they find the security room. And they come up with this plan where one of them will stay behind and try and activate the OT while the other three are out in the outside world, so that when their innie takes over in OT, they even say, we're not going to worry about, looking into our lives. We're going to find someone we think we can trust, and we're going to tell them what's really going on in Severance.
And the reason why one has to stay behind is because it takes two people to turn the keys. I don't know if you mentioned that or not. So that's why. Yeah.
So they need someone there to actually turn the keys to activate the OT. Dylan volunteers to stay behind. I think probably because I'm not sure he'd be able to handle waking up and finding that he has kids.
I think that because he screams at the guy at the end about
So we'll get to that. But so that's how the second to last episode ends. Is he finally manages to do it. And here's the problem, though. So Mark on the outside is at his brother-in-law's book reading. And Harmony shows up because she's made his sister believe that she's some kind of like birthing coach or something. And so she's become friends with Mark's sister. And so she's at this book reading as well. And Mark has just gotten done basically telling her, I'm going to quit, because outside Mark doesn't know that that's Harmony. Mm-hmm. So he thinks this is just his kooky neighbor who took a shine to his sister. So he gets done telling her that he wants to quit Severance, that he doesn't think he needs it anymore, and he doesn't want to do it. And she's so happy because she's just been fired. Because the board, she was trying to blackmail the board, because the board kept saying, no, there's no way that anyone can reverse the chip. And so when she's been hunting down Petey and the people that helped reverse his chip, and she finally gets the proof and everything, and so she's blackmailing the board, probably for a better position or something.
Maybe,
we don't really know,
yeah.
because she never gets her meeting with them, because the board finds out that she covered up the fact that Helly tried to kill herself.
Right.
And we, at first you're not sure why the board would be so mad about that, till you find out who Helly is on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So she's already been fired. So you're thinking, okay, well, what does Harmony care? She's happy that Mark's quitting. What does she care about this company anymore? They fired her. Anyway, so they all wake up in the new last episode. They all wake up. Mark kind of like stiffens up, but then is able to be like, oh, I don't know, like, and tries to pretend, but she can tell. Harmony can tell that he's different now.
Because because as she says, he's very off-putting now. All of a sudden, he's very uncomfortable.
Yep.
And
so she knows something's up.
And again, going back to Adam Scott's acting, we can all tell as the audience too that he's acting different.
Yep.
That in that moment where you can see the change.
Yep.
And I told her, I was like, I think it's because he knew that this was. It wasn't like Dylan where he was surprised.
Right. They were expecting to be woken up.
So the fact that he was able to control himself, his shock, and his probably appalled.
Yep. So he's outside. He learns that Dylan is his sister, that he's an uncle, and that the writer of the book is his brother-in-law. And he's like, he sits down to listen to this book reading like he's listening to the word of God.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing.
It is funny because then he goes and talks to his brother-in-law and says how amazing his book is.
And the brother's like, what's wrong with you?
Right. Because he knows he thinks he's a joke in real life.
Right.
So.
But while he's talking to his brother-in-law tells him, why Mark, because Mark just says something like, hey, are we close? Because Mark's still trying to find someone to confess to about what's going on with Severance. And so the brother's kind of like, I know I made fun of you for the Severance thing, and I understand you did it because you're a wife, and we were all such 4 best friends, and, oh, I have this picture. And I'm like, show him the goddamn picture!
Right.
Let him know that it's Miss Casey.
But he doesn't.
He gets pulled away. And that's where I told him, I'm like, it's gotta be that it's because his character isn't very aggressive anyway, because if that's me and I don't know how much time I've got to be conscious, I'm gonna be like, no dude, fuck that, show me this picture you were gonna show me.
Well, that kind of bothered me too, because they're like, no, because he's gonna confess to his sister,
right?
But then his sister's like, well, the
book
reading started
yeah.
after that. And I'm like, well, it's probably 20 minutes, half an hour,
right.
or whatever.
And poor Dylan's sitting there,
and he's doing this. You know you don't know how much time you got. I'd be like,
fuck your book reading.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
this is my sister. I need to talk to my sister.
Fuck.
So he eventually the sister Dylan, she winds up giving the baby because the baby's crying, and he wants to talk to her, and so she gives the baby to Harmony,
who she thinks
is her friend, who's been helping her with the baby and everything. So they're talking in the bedroom, and he finally, tells her everything, and she believes him, and she's trying to get to know this new innie Mark. And he's kind of telling her what it's really like, and she tells him, well, your outie Mark was kind of trying to figure stuff out too. And they're in her bedroom or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, Miss Cobell's here. And she's like, who the fuck is that?
Right.
And so he's like, oh, well, she's dressed different now, but she's my boss there. And they put it together that they're talking about the same person. And she's like, my baby. And so they're running around the party thinking that she stole the baby. Turns out she put the baby in a different room. Mark is in the room and he sees a picture and he goes to pick it up. And, it's a picture, it's his wedding picture with him and Miss Casey. Mm-hmm. Oh, so he runs out, and this whole time, because I'm doing this one character at a time, but this whole time Dylan's been holding it, and Milchek is trying to get in to stop him. And he's just about cut his way in. And so Mark is running back out, and he goes, Dylan, she's alive! And he's holding up the picture of his wife. And then the switches end, and that's the end of season 1. Yeah. For Mark. So let's go back. Now Helly wakes up, and she's at this gala. She's in an elevator at this gala. And what's her face? Natalie, the one that speaks for the board, is next to her. And who else is in this elevator or whatever? The pregnant lady that Dylan met. So I was like, oh, this isn't good. So through talking to them and a bunch of other people, Helly figures out, guess what? She's the granddaughter of the founder of the company, Kris Williamson.
Yeah.
That's why her Audi wouldn't let her quit. Her Audi, meanwhile, has been spewing all of this propaganda about how Severance is great and she chose to do it. She's not doing it out of a loyalty to the family, that blah, 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 that she loves it, that her innie loves it, that her and her innie are like best friends.
They're at like a work convention or
she's got to do a speech and they're showing photos and of course it's all photos of the Severance floor. They're laughing, happy,
they're productive, it looks great,
right? So she winds up meeting her father, who is again the son of Kris Williamson, and he controls the company now, and she's supposed to go up and give this great big speech about how awesome Severance is.
And we're all like, oh, please don't.
I know, I was like, please let her get up there and speak as Innie.
Yeah.
I want to hear Innie Helly. And so, meanwhile, because Harmony has figured out that Mark is awake, she leaves the party and she calls Milchek to tell him what's going on. And I'm like, bitch, why do you care? You don't even work for the company anymore. Like, they fired your ass.
Yeah, I don't understand. Maybe they'll explain it in season 2, but I don't understand what her...
If I were her, I would have been like, okay, let's help Mark and the others fuck them over.
I thought that's how it was going to go, but the fact that she was so still pro-company and trying to protect the company, but she almost made it like as if something catastrophe is going to happen if they... And
Who knows?
You know, yeah.
But again, I don't work for them anymore. What do I care?
I don't know. I don't know.
But so she's racing to stop Helly while Milchek is running to try and stop Dylan from doing the overtime. And Dylan does, like you mentioned earlier, he's trying to, Milchek is trying to get him anything to stop and come open the door. He's like, I'll give you beer cozy, I'll give you whatever, you know.
Yeah,
he's like, and he shouts at him, and he's like, I want to remember what my kid was born, or whatever.
I want to know the feeling when my kid was born, and his reply is, you have 3 kids.
You have 3 kids. I'll open the door, I'll tell you their names.
Which I think just makes Dylan even angrier, honestly, because...
So, Milchek is cutting through. So we go back to Helly, and they're trying to shove her out on stage, and Harmony shows up, and she's like, I know it's you, you're not, you know, and Helly's like, I'm going out there and I'm gonna ruin your company, I'm gonna tell them everything.
Yep.
And so she does, because she gets out there and she starts telling them, Severance is horrible, they torture us down there, I hate it, blah, 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 blah. I'm sure they're going to spin it off as something when they come back. But right before, so she got to speak her truth right before it cut off.
Yeah.
So that's where we leave Helly at the end of season 2. 1, sorry. So now Irving wakes up, and we've seen a little bit of him, and what's interesting about Irving is his Audi has a memory of the hallway, because Bert winds up, I think as punishment to both of them,
I think it was.
They wind up, the company decides to retire Bert. And so they allow Irving to follow Bert to this long hallway to where retirement goes. And so Bert's Audi, this must have been such a impact on his innie that his Audi is painting this hallway with no memory of why or what it is.
A lot over and over again.
Like canvas after canvas after canvas. And I said, when we found out that he was a painter, I was like, I'm glad his Audi is a painter, because he likes painting so much inside, you know?
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, exactly.
So he wakes up, and he's working on yet another of the exact same painting. He starts looking around his house, finds out his dad was in the Navy, he's got a dog, which would have made me happy. And he finds in the trunk with his dad's Navy stuff, he pulls the top part off, and in the bottom, his Audi had been collecting all kinds of information about Lumen, about Severance. Somehow his Audi got a list of all the severed employees. His Audi had a map that was starting to map where all the different employees were living, and one of them is Bert. And so he's like, okay, well, fuck it, I'm going to go find Bert. But I want to know how his Audi got all that information.
Right.
So he takes off.
Dreams maybe is what I was wondering.
Who knows?
You know?
And that's what I told him. I was like, I wonder if, like, because he's an artist, like, people with creative minds already have kind of more open minds. So maybe it's harder to completely sever
Maybe.
Whatever the connection is that they're severing. But either way, it's funny when he's trying to figure out which car is his. He finds his car, and then we're like, can he drive?
Yeah, that's what we were trying to ask. Yeah, because we're not thinking about that this whole time. But they're like, wait a minute, and the answer is sort of.
Sort of. So yeah, it's probably like a teenager when they get behind the wheel of a car and they're like, I've seen people do this.
Yeah, he acted like it was like he knew what to do, but he hadn't done it in a long time. That's what it looked like.
So he winds up getting all the way to Bert's house, and through the window we see Bert's there with another guy, because he was like the whole time, oh, it'll be so sad if he gets there and Bert's got a wife and kids.
That's
or
what
something.
I.
And I was like, what if he shows up and Bert's got a husband?
And I was like, well, then I thought they were, because we were talking about how. And your innie could represent who you really are. And then, because you don't have any of those restrictions of society or judgment or any of that. So my thought was, okay, in the real life, especially their generation, Christopher Walken, Bert, may have a wife. And so, but they decided to go this way with it, which is still cool. It's still devastating for Irving.
For Irving, right. But I'm happy that Bert was happy outside and inside.
Because like she said, she goes, well, Bert's not going to remember him either way.
Right. So,
he could be single and ready to mingle and not know who he is.
But right before the OT ends, he gets out of his car, Irving gets out of his car, and he's banging on the front door yelling, Bert, Bert! And then OT ends. Yeah, and that's where we leave him. So
that's going to be an awkward opening the door, but...
Be like, I don't know why I'm here. Right.
I don't know.
So yeah. What did we like? Everything.
This show is such a puzzle, and that every episode gives you a little bit more and a little bit more, and it pulls you in right from the beginning. Does. Like, I don't really have anything negative to say.
No, the sets are amazing.
Except for I want more and I want answers now.
But that's your fault. That's your problem.
Yeah, it is. I have to wait for season 2. So... Yeah, I don't know I love it though. I think it's just great. I think that it makes my mind think of where they could be going with it, which I love. It helps me be creative. It also, because they went so much deeper into it, where they're separate people, and then what would happen if that person, because they always say in it, if you retire, the person that you are working for the company essentially dies. Right. Because they don't remember anything. So
technically,
anymore.
Bert that he knew inside, Bert dead.
Unless they've got his conscience. Unless because Miss Casey proves that maybe the conscience still lives on. I don't know. I don't know. But the show's a while.
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions that I need answers to in season 2. So.
Yeah. So, but this. Okay, how about this? The show was so good that it made us finally get Apple TV. Right. Because we were holding off. Like,
I wanted to watch Ted Lasso, and then I was like, but do we need another streaming service?
Do we need another show to watch? And then the morning show was supposed to be good. And we're like, but... So this one, though, the minute I heard about the concept of this was just...
Yep, I guess we're getting Apple TV.
Yeah. You got us, Apple.
Yep, got us.
So I would say watch it, binge it.
Absolutely.
Watch every single episode.
And then tweet about it incessantly so that they get us season 2 fast. Yeah. Super fast.
I was telling her, just doing this review makes me want to watch it again. So, and we just finished watching it a minute ago. So, yeah.
That final episode, it's like... My heart was racing the whole time, and I'm like shouting at the TV. I was like, "Show him the picture!" Like, it really got you into it.
Like, it's funny as much as I enjoy the Marvel shows and the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus. This one gave me more satisfaction. I think with every episode watching it, and just what's next? Right.
It was an edge of your seat show.
Yeah.
So
go watch it.
Yeah, please watch it. We've got nothing else to say, but watch it.
Right, exactly. Like and subscribe for this surprise little video we decided to throw together because we just had so much to say about it. We're like, fuck it, let's just review it.
Let's talk.
So like and subscribe so you're notified when we do other surprise videos.
Or planned videos. Sometimes we plan stuff.
Exactly. All right, thanks guys for watching. I think I haven't said a whole lot, but I think that's time for our show.
Yeah, I always talk a lot. Have a good night, good fright.
It's because she remembers the show better than I do. True. So, bye.